Namaste and good evening. My name is Devi Prasad. Just to clarify, not the one from Hera Fairy movie. This is the one from Apollo Health and Lifestyle. Can you give me a huge round of applause? Look, I need this beforehand because afterwards there is no guarantee. Someone very knowledgeable once told me the best way to address a key gathering is to sit up, speak up, and very quickly wrap up. So what it means is it will have a good beginning, a very quick ending, and nothing in between. So I'm just putting a disclaimer what I'm going to do today as a moderator so that there's not much expectation from me. I think before we start the evening, I'd like to first thank HROne and SHRM for inviting us to this event. And a big round of applause, especially to the one who's sitting in the last rows of this hall. Can I have a big round of applause for people sitting in the last row? Because I believe the best brains are found in the last rows of the conference halls. All right. Now, today's topic, if you have to talk about, it's about leading without a playbook. So, how HR handle chaos, conflict, and constant change could not be more apt. And to be very honest, I was wondering, when did HR ever get a playbook? We have been scripting it on the go, right? Whether in between hiring freezes or hiring frenzies, conflict resolution or culture transformation, or policy making, or during power cut during Zoom calls, right? HR was there everywhere. And interesting thing is, HR today is less about handbooks and more about hurricanes. We are no longer just policy custodians, rather we are crisis managers, culture architects, conflict negotiators, and change whisperers. To share some statistics with all of you, which will keep us understand, give us the flavors where do we stand today. As per Gartner, 83% of HR leaders say their role has become more complex in the last 3 years. LinkedIn Talent Report says 60% of HR leaders say that they are exhausted. And Mercer says only 24% of HR leaders feel confident in the organizational ability to adapt future disruptions. So how do HR survive and thrive amid chaos, conflict, and constant change? Do they just adapt, learn, lead, or laugh, or handle it? So let's dive into the unscripted, unpredictable, unforgettable conversation on leadership without a playbook with my best two HR minds of the industry, of the city, of India, and of the world sitting in my left and right. So a big round of applause for Mr. Ranga and Ms. Meenakshi as well. A big round of applause. So today we're not going to talk about only best practices. We're going to talk about brave practices, right? So my first gear, as if I'm riding a car, and now it's in neutral. I'm trying to put the first gear. And my first question is going to be Mr. Ranga. What is your go-to strategy when senior leadership is divided on people decision?
Yeah, thank you, Devi, for asking this question. So based on my experience on the, manufacturing, FMCG, IT, engineering, and agriculture. So what I could learn from the, all this experience. The question to answer you, I listen all perspectives from across all the people, all the functions. Bring in the facts. Of course, today the data is the important aspect. I bring the facts and collaborate and co-create both the people and as well as the business. So that's the one strategy I'm going to implement to win the hearts of the people as well as the business.
Lovely. Such a brilliant insight. मैं तो यही बोलना चाहूंगा, मैनुअल ना था, ना कोई गाइडलाइन थी, हर प्रॉब्लम के पीछे एक डेडलाइन थी, फिर भी एचआर साथ दिया मुस्कुरा के, क्योंकि हर तूफान में एक लाइफलाइन थी. A big round of applause for all HR professionals in the room, please. Now, Meenakshi, before I move to you and ask you a question, do you all like stories? All of you? Yeah, short ones. So there was a little boy was trying to ride his bicycle. Yeah. Without the training wheels, तो side stand होते हैं ना, side stands नहीं थे. So he kept falling and his bruised knees. And his father said, maybe we should try tomorrow. Then the boy wiped his tears and said, no, Papa, if I fall today, I'll be stronger tomorrow. So the mindset of resilience is not about falling. It's about believing that every fall builds tomorrow's strength. And Meenakshi, before I come to you, just to let you know that 85% of executives and project managers report a rise in change management projects, indicating increased organizational change initiatives. So my question to you is, how do you lead change when there is a conflict of ideas or resistance, especially coming from the top?
I'm sure you may have dealt with this type of scenarios in your own ecosystem working in the HR space. There are a couple of strategies which I have tried implementing in my day-to-day world, which really work well for me. I do want to share it with all of you. First and foremost, try and be an active listener. How many times we are listening just with the intent of responding? So my first suggestion is try to have an active listening mindset, where you're listening to the perspective, you're listening to the problem statement, understanding where's the resistance coming from. Once you have a better understanding, it's good for you to shape up your business case with the right data, with the right insights, because data is where you're going to dissect opinion, perceptions with the real data value too. So go with the data mind back approach, go with markets trend, go with the benefit, cost benefit analysis. These things really helps a lot. Also stay course in terms of do the pilot batch. How many times you have seen that, okay, go with small pilot iterative batch. If it really works, hopefully it's going to work best with the organization wide change as well. So start small, show the value, and then try and implement with the organization wide change. There are two more things which I really swear by. First is stay consistent on the stay course. There are times when you feel defeated if the approach is not coming in from your leadership team. So stay on course, stay consistent. Also engage with your influencer. And my dear friends, I'm not talking about the social media influencer, I'm talking about the influencer in your organization, because oftentimes peer pressure stems, and the other stakeholders which are not invested in your solution get start invested in the solutions as well. And last but not the least, communication is your key, because your communication is, most of the time change is painful because your what if comes in. What if this happens? What if that happens? So you have to address your what ifs. So manage communication both upwards and downwards. Address your why, when, how, and what it translate to be. If you address all those things, hopefully try and make into a meta situation. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Navigating leadership dynamics really is an HR form, not just a skill, right? कहते हैं ना, हर बदलाव का डर लोगों के लिए रुकावट बन जाए, हर बदलाव का डर लोगों के लिए रुकावट बन जाए, तब HR हर बार उन्हें नई राह दिखाए. So we need to keep moving forward and keep happening things. For example, change is like a new fitness regime, right? All of you agree? Uncomfortable at first and results later. But as we all know, resistance melts with recognition. Now, let me shift the gear. Now I'm moving the gear to the next one. And this time, before I ask this question to Ranga, let me again tell you a very short story. There were two painters, right? They're very good in painting. One of the best painters of the world, you can say. And the two painters argued over colors, on mural. Mural is like an art. And instead of pushing their opinion, one said, let's each paint a side. If people stop to look, we both win. And fortunately, that mural became the most photographed one in the town. So conflict does not always need resolution. Normally we think that conflict is a resolution hona chahiye. No, conflict always does not need resolution. Sometimes it just needs the room to hold both the truth can exist. So with this, Ranga, what I like to understand from you is, what is the toughest conflict if you had to resolve between teams or leaders, and what has worked for you in your entire experience, any of the industry, company, you can cite examples or share examples as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Devi. I remember during my telecom days in 2010. 2008 to 2014, there were so many players in India. The toughest competition across all telecom players. While working with one of the telecom industry, there's a tough conflict between the network and sales. Network and sales people will give the different kinds of commitment where network people has to provide the networks and service to the customers. So there's huge difference conflict between these two functions. So being HR, I think it is keep on going every time because sales guys are giving a wrong commitments. Network people are coming saying that you are giving a wrong commitment without consulting with us. So it's a tough conflict. So during that time, I think being HR, what I did, guys, I think I listened to them very carefully. I'll open a dialogue, had a focus group discussion with both the gentlemen, and finally I could able to come out in one single solution. We're all one team, one goal, one company. So end of the day, customer is our God. So let us understand our priorities to address the customer rather than having a conflict between the both the functions. I think that's where I could able to resolve the conflict in a very seamlessly.
Thank you, Ranga. I think that was a masterclass in courage and tact. And as we all know, change never asks for permission. Now, before I go ahead and ask to Meenakshi, I would like to again share a short story. So, in a large office, there was a coffee machine, and this coffee machine was painfully slow. Everyone queued every morning, grumbling and wasting time. But one day, one junior employee noticed that there was a second machine in another floor, barely used. So instead of joining the long queue, what she decided is to take down the stairs, get her coffee in seconds, and return back before others even move forward in line. So change is also not about fixing what is broken, or not is about spotting overlooked possibilities and moving faster with what others accept as normal. And why do I say this? Because 85% of executives and project managers report a rise in change management projects, with only 25% experiencing a surge in over 50%. So what Meenakshi would like to understand from you is that what is the biggest people change initiative you have driven without a clear blueprint, and what did you learn?
If I have to reflect back, I would love to quote a project from my last organization where we acquired one company. And I was being tasked as the post-merger integration project. Since this was the first time for me leading that initiative, it was not a playbook was not been given to me, and we've been being lead to just like task and saying, okay, this is the new organization, we have to start the post-merger activities. This is where I think the first and foremost thing as an HR professional, we have to understand what is the problem statement that we're trying to solve for, what is the objective, how we want to do it, when we want to do it. Once we have the clear idea about the objective, about the goals, things get start to little bit easy. The second foremost thing is like bring the right stakeholders into the room and have a co-ownership be created. Once you have your stakeholders being invested as if like their own project is also on the line, they will be more invested in like partnering with you, and that's where the trust start building in. Also, like fail fast. If you have heard the term like agile and being fail fast. Fail fast. If it's not working, don't hang up into the solution because it's your solution. Try and adopt multiple things. And if you can create an environment of shared wins, there's nothing like it. So those are some of the strategies that really worked well when I was like leading it. And of course, it's not a rosy. There are times when you like hit the roadblock and you understand, okay, how we want to do the things differently as well. But really, these are some of like the key call outs that I would love to share it with all of you.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I think that was a brilliant reminder that some of the best HR wins happens in the gray areas, right? Not in policies, but in people. कहते हैं ना, जब नक्शा ना हो हाथ में इरादे काफी होते हैं. जब नक्शा ना हो हाथ में इरादे काफी होते हैं. HR के हौसले से अंधेरे में भी रोशनी होते हैं. Again, a big round of applause to all the HR guys here, please. We don't need a playbook, especially when we have purpose and people and both are together. So having said this, let me also give you again one short story, and before I move to Ranga. So this was the time of COVID, which is one of the stories that I came across, and there's a person who was cleaning the car, and suddenly he calls his owner one day, "Ki, sir, would you like to buy vegetables and eggs?" And his owner was confused. He asked him, "You clean my car, and you are asking me about, you are selling vegetables and eggs and all. Then your core job is cleaning the car." He answers, please mark his answer. My core job is adaptability and flexibility, right? So if you're adaptable and flexible, you can do anything and everywhere in life. So having said this, Ranga, what I like to understand from you is, when everything feels like falling apart, सब गिर रहा है, ठीक है, अपने हाथों में कुछ नहीं है. What is your first instinct as an HR leader?
Okay, well, Devi, I think, my experience taught me, we all know that we have three phases of life: glad, sad, mad, which never remains same. We keep on rotating that. So having said that, my first instinct, being HR leader, I think take a pause, which is the most important. I think take a pause and deeply listen and bring the people to connect. To connect, how to? We use the three C's. One is the connect, care, and compassion. I think these three C's will really connect people to bring across all together and having that kind of, present manner in a compassion situation.
Thank you, Ranga. I think it takes the courage to lead, and आपने तो Maslow hierarchy law भी समझा दिया. Safety, communication, connection, right? So before I move to Meenakshi, let me, give you, or let me ask you one question, saying that, do you think HR today is more about intuition or data, especially when there is no clear direction?
I think, in my opinion, HR is both intuition as well as data. So your intuition, if especially when there is uncertain times, is where you want to start, like what problem you want to solve for, where you want to start, ask the right ask the right questions, start with the starting point. That's where initiation comes into the picture. Once you set the initiation, this is where data will help validate those assumptions as well, where you can build confidence with your leadership team, change or adapt in case if you want to change anything different into your solution mindset as well. So in my opinion, it's a combination of both initiation as well as with the data insight. Initiation comes when you go with the people initiatives backed. So start with initiation and then modify and adapt with the data backed approach.
So what I understood, what Meenakshi is explaining me is, it is like cooking biryani, right? When you cook biryani, you need both data and, so data is like your recipe, and intuition is the spice, right? Dono chahiye. You need both, because data is going to tell us the attrition is rising or it is not rising, and intuition is going to tell you why, right? So as great HR leaders, it's very important for us to read dashboards and body language, and often in the same day and the same time. So again, दो लाइन आपको हिंदी में भी बोल देता हूं मेरे शब्द में. डेटा देता है रास्ता, इंट्यूशन चुने मंजिल का रंग. डेटा देता है रास्ता, इंट्यूशन चुने मंजिल का रंग. दोनों का संगम हो तो सफलता है अनुराग. Now, Ranga, coming to you, 85% of executives and project managers report a rise in the number of change management projects, and 56% seeing an increase of more than 25%. So can you share a time when a sudden crisis hit your company and how you responded?
Yeah, really, I would like to share my real-time example during my Coke days. Yeah, Coke is a manufacturing unit. So at the time, the Fanta, is processing. Fanta is going on in the Coke plant. And at the time, during the time, we have, wage settlement. Management and workers, settlement discussion is going on. Unfortunately, it's got failed. Suddenly, I really don't know. Suddenly, all workmen stopped the Fanta line. They moved out of the production. So that is called the catwalk strike. I don't know at the time. So then immediately my production head called me, Ranga, what we can do? Because once we start this entire Fanta production, we have to complete it within immediately. We can't store for, next day or alternate days. So immediately my production head and said that, Ranga, let us complete this entire Fanta production. We called all the staff and quality people, all HR people, all finance, sales, everybody had come together and we completed the entire Fanta production within a span of midnight, 12 o'clock. I think the crisis comes, we don't know, and suddenly workers moved out of the production bay. So I realized that. I think that's where the instant how we can HR can act collaboratively and co-create the entire to support the business.
Thank you, Ranga. A powerful one. And this is the last question to both of you. A common question. If you had to write your own one-line playbook rule, just one line, for leading in chaos, what it would be? One line answer.
I would say anchor in empathy, because how you make the other person feel will stay with them rather than what's being said. So definitely lead with empathy.
Yeah, Ranga, your one-line answer.
So I say stay focused and stay calm, focus what matters.
All right, I will now wrap up the session and have a quick summary with what we all discussed. There may not be no playbook, but HR writes the unwritten rules of resilience, care, and courage every single day. Chaos is constant, and conflict will emerge, and change is inevitable. But HR people are extraordinarily good. They will have the ability to rise, rewire, and rehumanize the workplace. We don't follow a script. HR becomes the plan, the strategy, and the support, and often the much needed pause in the storm. And finally, we are the best. Thank you so much. I hope you have all enjoyed this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. That was indeed an insightful conversation. We can have a group photo opportunity here, our moderator and the panelists. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank our panelists, our moderator, for sharing such authentic and powerful experiences. Indeed, there were great insights on how to navigate even without a playbook.